welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam on a very tiring Monday. So let's see, what is there to talk about today? The Time Traveler's Wife. Episode 4 we are now through, which puts us, give or take, more or less about halfway through the show. No. 2/3 of the way through the show. Yeah, because it's 6 episodes, according to what I found on the internet, because I looked it up. So I was curious about how much longer do we have in this? It is astounding to me. Number one, I love the criticism. I love the criticism I've gotten regarding my coverage of this show. The vitriolic criticism I've gotten as a result of this show. Here's the problem. I have not read the book that this is based on. I have not watched the movie that this is based on. However, there are plenty of other movies and TV shows based on books that I have not read the book or watched something else that this was also adapted from this and gotten the full experience from it. Like, say, for example, if someone watches Father of the Bride, the upcoming remake again that they're doing again on an HBO Max, or, you know what, let's use a one that's already out. Let's say someone watched Father of the Bride with Steve Martin. They don't need to have watched the original to understand what is going on. And the notion that, oh, well, watch this or read this, that shouldn't factor into a TV show. That shouldn't factor into what's happening here to make this show work. And I feel like if the issue is a lot of the claims that are made on the show are not substantiated by anything. I will give the show credit because in this episode they do address the concerns about quote-unquote grooming, which I am on the side firmly that it is. Because fundamentally the problem with the show is there is the claim that is made by Henry multiple times that the past cannot be changed. Even going so far as to in the second episode saying that to his younger self, the kid version of him. Now here's the problem with that. We don't see anything happen that would indicate that the past cannot be changed. We don't see that. Like, there's that one iteration of it where it's like he's talking to his younger self and it's like, all right, well, in exactly however many seconds, you're going to get up out of that chair and you're going to run over. But if that's the only thing that is the indicator, that's the only thing on the show so far that has indicated that, oh, the past, or like, time is immutable. Nothing can change. Everything that will happen has happened, and if you don't like it, tough shit. There has been no fundamental proof of this assertion besides that one instance, and even that isn't exactly proof. That's just proof that he knew what he would do. He knew himself. But there are so many other things that could happen. And what I'm reminded of when I watch this, again, it's Stephen Moffat, is the death of Amy and Rory. And I think I may have mentioned this in a past episode or in something else about it. But when Amy and Rory die in Doctor Who, their death is not exactly the most concrete in terms of how they die. So it's in the episode The Angels Take Manhattan, which is like the finale of season 7A, if I remember correctly, or the first half of season 7 before they switch over to Clara. And if you watch the show, the way the angels work is the angels, if they touch you, will send you back in time. Now, if you are not a Time Lord, or you lose your TARDIS, then that's a problem, because then you can't get back. You have to live out your life from that point in the past, wherever they send you. So, like, the first time we introduced them in the episode Blink, David Tennant's doctor and Martha get sent back in time and have to figure out how to get back to the future by talking to someone else. But the issue is the angels don't actually kill anyone, it seems. And if you look at the gravestone that he sees for Amy and Rory, it's not a gravestone that says, oh, it's a, it's not a gravestone that says, oh, and then they died immediately after. It's a gravestone that says, like, they lived out their lives and died substantially after being sent back in time by the angels. And he says it creates a fixed point in time, and I can't go back and get you. If you go back in time, if it kills you and you go back in time to 1930, whatever. And my thought when I saw that was, but why? Like, okay, they get sent back in time and that creates a fixed point in there, but why can't you pick them up after that? Or, like, come back a year later. Or, like, because you did that to fucking Amy once. We saw her as a kid and you came back years later. Like, you could do that. That's an option. You could go, like, what's it called? You could say, oh, hey, because if it's New York, that's the fixed point. He could never go back to that point in New York again. Like, well, why can't he just go to, like, can he not go back to New York in that intervening time either? Because he can't pick up Amy and Rory? Like, is there a like, there's no concrete reason given. It's just lazy. And that's what I'm reminded of here. Where it's like, no reason's given, just take it at face value, don't question it. It makes sense. Don't think about it too hard. And that's not how you do fiction writing. Like, especially for something like this. Especially if you're going to do time travel, you have to sit there and you have to figure, like, what, give me and the perfect example would have been, if they're going to sit there and they're going to show us his mother get beheaded 14 times in an episode, like they did in episode 2, at least do it where you're showing over and over again Henry at different ages trying to stop it. Because all we see through the entire show, through the entire thing, is like 30 Henrys all just milling about and being like, just hanging around. Like, there is no, like, oh, and here we can't do, like, oh, well, we tried, it didn't work. Oh, like, at least show me the different times he tries to stop it. Because, like, that's the thing. It's like, there is no proof that he can't just, like, well, what would have happened if he carjacked her? Like, what would have happened if he went out and, like, threw baking soda into her gas tank? Like, is it just, it won't work? Like, the laws of physics won't allow it to happen? Like, it's just like, that's the thing. And then we get into the whole other issue I have with this episode, which is the woman who is going to kill herself, which is apparently unavoidable. And I don't understand how they thought that was a good idea. Where it's like, you have a woman, and you show she has problems with substance abuse, you show she has problems with cutting and self-harm, and it's like, the fact that this conversation happens, and it's like, death is unavoidable, it comes for everyone, and she will eventually kill herself, you can't just, like, what the fuck? Like, that's a very bleak message to send, and you put this fucking disclaimer before the episode, like, suicide's a very serious issue. It's like, well, what the fuck? That's a completely contrasting message. It's like, well, help is out there. It's like, well, okay, yeah, help is out there, but according to the show, help is not out there. You can't avoid it. It's gonna happen. It's the most fucked up thing on the planet. I don't understand. I genuinely don't. And this guy's riding my ass, I'm in the fast lane, I'm going 70. Like, I genuinely don't understand how that, how the fuck does that happen? And no one be like, alright, pause. Like, alright, we have suicide in the episode, so we're gonna have to put the disclaimer, and that's a given. We're gonna have to do that. Now, have we considered maybe that the disclaimer and the what's going on in the episode maybe don't 100% mesh out or mesh together? Have we considered that as a possibility? No? Alright, whatever, moving on. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I was watching it and I'm like, well, this is a really weird stance to take. Like, especially considering that, like, it is just as easy for Henry to just lie to her. And there's no reason given that he can't lie to her. Considering that he'll lie to fucking everyone else about what's going to happen in the future. Like, the whole show is one big lie of lying to people of what's going to happen. He lied to Claire for like 16 years. Like, about being married to her. Like, that he can lie about. He can't lie to, what's it called? He can't lie to this woman and be like, oh no, you don't kill yourself. No, it's fine. You live a long time. It's okay. Like, I just haven't seen you in a while. Like, that kind of thing, like, couldn't be done. Why couldn't that be done? Why couldn't he do that? Like, what's the reason for that? We're going to take this dinner party, which is fucked up enough as it is in terms of what's going on, and have him take it to this really dark place where it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, that's the problem, is that the show makes rules up as it goes along, and the rules don't always gel with, the rules already set forward. And then on top of it, too, I keep doing this, where it's like, and here's all this other minor bullshit that bothers me, and then it's like, here's all those other major systemic thematic issues that happen, and then I also have my problem with the dialogue, because the issue with the show is everyone sounds the same. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you take any line of dialogue from this show and, like, type it out, or pick up the script, select a line of dialogue out of the script, and don't show the person who's saying the line, and you go, okay, whose line is this? And I'm not saying something where they're referring to someone where it's like you can intuit it by who they're talking to. Like, take any line and be like, who said this? And everyone has an identical, snarky, kind of smartest person in the room voice. It's like watching something written by fucking Joss Whedon, where it's like everyone's the smartest person in the room, and it's just not funny. Like, and it's not, like, it doesn't land when you do that, because you don't have time to respond. Like, if Henry was like that, and I totally get there are two Henrys in this episode, and I totally understand that, and I totally understand that, those are going to sound the same. And, okay, if you want to say Henry and Claire sound the same, like, especially considering how Henry groomed her, and by the way, I'm not letting up off of that, because Henry himself concedes it in the episode, so anyone who said that it wasn't grooming, I think that if the guy involved said it was, I think it's time to back off that horse. It's just one of those things where it's like, maybe Claire picks up on his speech patterns and starts talking like him because of her interactions with him all throughout her childhood. Maybe that's just a thing that happens because of how he imprinted on her, which, again, they use that, and I'm like, see, and no one thinks this is kind of fucked up. Everyone's just kind of cool with this, and we're just gonna, like, live with it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I feel like I've lost my mind. That's how I feel right now when I watch this show, where I'm like, really? Like, this is what it is? And then we have 2 more episodes, and we're rocketing toward the finale. The next episode is about Henry meeting her parents based on the coming attraction, and I don't understand. I really, I don't understand how they're going to wrap this up concisely in 2 episodes. Granted, I said the same thing about Moon Knight, after episode 4, where, like, I was like, how are they going to finish this up in 2 episodes? Like, how are they going to get to that point where everything's kind of wrapped up with a nice, neat bow, and it's all one final cohesive thing? Like, it doesn't quite mesh. properly, like, into how storytelling is usually done. And then for, like, especially if the next episode's going to be entirely that. And it's like, okay, maybe we'll get to see what kills him. But then, at the end of the day, what does that matter? And then the other thing is, we don't see nearly enough of their future relationship for anything to really matter. Like, if I'm watching the show and I'm like, okay, so these two are married because the show tells me they're married, but we don't see the two of them warming up to each other in any real way. Like, it's just kind of like, okay, she thinks he's an asshole, okay, and then here we are with the next one. It's like, it's more than a little fucked up. Well, that's not fucked up as much as just poor writing, because it's like, look, you're doing a lot with time travel, and we're getting a lot of backstory, but if the culmination of the story is going to be Henry gets killed, then I think that there needs to be something in the future besides little, like, almost vignettes about what's going on in the future, where it's like, okay, so now he understands what the marker is, which we didn't know the marker existed before that point, but what the hell, why not? Like, now he understands what the marker is, which seems silly because, like, regardless of whether or not she told him what the marker is, like, you would think that he would have just been like, hey, what's the marker for? She could have been like, hey, it's for my first art project. Oh, okay, cool. And then just not revealed that. And then, like, this one where it's like after they have sex in that clearing, where it's like, we were never going to have sex in that clearing. And then she says to him, like, oh, you've been lying to me my entire life about us having sex in that clearing. And I'm like, well, first of all, how long has he been telling her that they're not going to fuck in the clearing? Number two, how does she not remember? Because she's not a time traveler. He is. He's the one who you have to sit there and be like, okay, well, I am out of order, like, so I don't know if we're going to, have sex in that clearing. And so, like, what? Like, she didn't know? Like, or is she just being playful about it? Like, oh, well, I knew, and you said you weren't going to, and here we are. And it's like, and then for him to be like, the entire episode where they're in the entire bit where they're in the clearing and she's trying to convince him to fuck her, like, that whole thing is so stupid. And then the whole backstory with fucking, what's it called? With her and the friend. It's like, they're such great friends. It's episode 4, and we're just now introduced to these two characters, including her roommate, like, which, would seem like an important character to introduce prior to episode 4 of 6. Like, especially if it's like, these are friends that we can trust and we can tell them everything about the time travel and not worry about them fucking ruining everything or telling someone or destroying something. And like, okay, like, I feel like that's kind of something that needs to be, that's something that, like, you need to introduce these characters before this point. Give me a moment of confidence between these characters and Claire. And they don't do that. And then just the way they treat this one guy like an asshole. It's like that fucking, what's his name, on Sherlock, it reminds me of. The one guy, Anderson, who he treats like a fucking dick all the time, and he really didn't do anything to deserve it. Like, besides the fact that he's not Sherlock and he's trying to do his job. Like, oh, I'm sorry, I actually work for the police. Like, fuck off. I don't know. So, I'm tired. I watched the show last night, and then I watched Aqua Teen Hunger Force while I was, going to sleep, and that show took a downhill turn. It kind of fell off a cliff around the time that they had the episodes where they weren't in the episodes, and it was the landlord showing new people to the house because they were off fighting a spider or some nonsense. I don't know. So we'll wrap up there for today. I think we've covered enough ground on, what's that called? The Time Traveler's Wife, episode 4. I mean, look, there's only 2 episodes left, so I will finish out the 2 episodes, but I'm not going to be happy about it. And I think that one of the things the show continues to do is vindicate me in a weird way. It continues to prove that I am right about what I'm saying, where it's like they're not doing, the bare minimum of proper storytelling is not being done, and all of that, and I just want one instance, this show to give me one instance of something that's happening that they know is going to happen, that there is the opportunity to change it, but they can't. And not this bullshit of, well, it's going to happen, so you're, like, I'm going to tell you that, and then you're not going to act. Well, you are going to act accordingly. Like, no, I want, because that's the thing, it's like, he tells his kid self, and he goes like, oh, well, why don't you, like, why can't I just run over and talk to her, and I'll, tell her everything? And he's like, no, you can't do that, something will stop you. And it's like, but why? Show me that happening. Show me that happening. Show me the kid running over to her and trying to do that, and then the what's it called? The like a crowd sweeping her away, or someone coming up to him and distracting him, or something else happening that keeps it from happening. Show me that. Don't just sit there and tell me that, because now I don't believe it. So again, we'll wrap up there for today. We'll be back with more stuff later in the week. So until then, have a great rest of your week.